to today's video of Math Strategies Made Simple with Mrs. Braun. Today we're going to be looking at a way to find equivalent fractions on number lines. And so let's take a look at this fraction 1/2. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a number line so that I can represent 1/2 on my number line. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my 0. And that denominator of 2 right here tells me that I need to have 2 equal spaces between each hole. So I'm going to draw 2 equal spaces. That tells me my 1 goes right here. And then I'm going to continue my number line because number lines do not stop at 1. So it goes on and on. But my 1/2 is right here. So I'm looking at one of these half-size pieces. So I'm going to be looking for a fraction that represents the same amount of the whole as that 1/2. So to do that, I'm going to draw another number line down here. I'm going to try to find an equivalent fraction to 1/2. What's very important is that I line up my whole numbers. My 0 and my 1 need to be lined up with what is on the first number line. Because if it's not lined up, then we're looking at 2 different size holes and we cannot compare the fractions. If you want, you can even go ahead and put the half marks there, because the strategy that we're going to do is look at this. We can partition each of those half pieces into smaller equal-sized pieces to represent a different fraction. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to partition each of these all the way across. And now what I need to do is look and see what fraction is represented right here, because that's what lines up. You see my 0s line up and my 1s line up, but I'm looking at right here, what does this fraction represent? And so I can find that out by looking at how many equal pieces there are of the whole. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 equal pieces, so that tells me my denominator is going to be 4. But I'm considering or looking at these 2 pieces right here because that's what it takes to line up with the 1/2. So 2/4 is equivalent to 1/2. Let's take a look at another example. Let's take a look at the fraction 2/3. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to represent 2/3 on a number line. I'm going to draw my number line. I'm going to start with my 0. And then I'm going to have 3 equal pieces because my denominator is 3 between each hole. So this time I'm going to do my whole numbers first so you can see it both ways. I'm going to split each of those into 3 equal pieces. And then I'm going to shade in or mark where my 2/3 is. So here's my 2/3. So that means I'm looking at this part of the whole. Now I need to find an equivalent fraction. So I'm going to come down here. I'm going to draw another number line. And I'm going to put my 0s and my 1s and 2s, line them up right underneath where the top one is for 2/3. Because again, remember, we're looking at those same size holes so that we can get an accurate comparison or equivalent fraction here. Now, I'm trying to find a fraction that's equivalent to this 2/3, that part of the whole right here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to partition each of these pieces into smaller equal-sized pieces to find an equivalent fraction. And so I'm going to split these into 2. You can split them into 3, you can split them into 4, you can split them 10, 20. It's not really reasonable on here, but the idea is still the same. You can take those pieces and split them into smaller equal-sized pieces to represent a different fraction that is going to still be equivalent. And so we've got to figure out what fraction this represents here. So I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 equal pieces. And I'm considering 1, 2, 3, 4 of them to be equivalent to 2/3. All right, let's take a look at one more example, 3/4. Write that up here. Again, I'm going to start by representing 3/4 on a number line. So I'm going to spread it out a little bit more so you can see it with more than one partition. So here's my 0, to be my 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, or my 1. 3/4 is going to be right here. So I'm looking to find an equivalent fraction for this part of the whole. So what I'm going to do again is I'm going to come down beneath it. I'm going to draw another number line, but I'm going to line up my whole numbers. I've got my 0 and I've got my 1. Those have to be equivalent, lined up exactly. And then I'm going to bring down my 4s because that's the strategy that I'm using here. And then I'm going to partition each of those this time into 3 smaller pieces. I'm going to split those into 3, those into 3, those into 3, those into 3. All right. Let me space that last one out a little bit better. Okay. Now I'm trying to find something that's equivalent to this 3/4 mark right here. So let's see what fraction is represented underneath here. First, I'm going to determine my denominator, see how many equal pieces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 equal pieces. And I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Takes 9 of those 12 pieces to be equivalent to 3/4. All right, here's one for you to try at home. Let's see if you can find some equivalent fractions for 1/4. I hope this video was helpful, and we'll see you again soon.